Hello, Full Metal Cowboy here, and I have another special video for you. This time, I would like to share the games that I picked up at the Seattle Retro Gaming Expo this year. And I've already mentioned in my previous video, which was me at the Seattle Retro Gaming Expo, that it was my 4th year attending it. And I haven't stopped going to that convention ever since I first went there. And whenever I go to this convention, I always get excited, not sure what I'm going to end up with, and I always leave happy and very optimistic about the games I'm about to play and knowing that I got some time to kill with them. So that's the thing I like about this particular convention. And I do enjoy playing video games, and I've always had a soft spot for retro games as well. So there's really a number of reasons why I like going to the Seattle Retro Gaming Expo. And of course, it's because it's the closest retro gaming convention that I'm able to go to, so that pretty much sums it up. How I ended up going to the Seattle Retro Gaming Expo, or SRGE as I like to call it for short because I think it has a nice ring to it, was through a friend of mine, because I remembered about 4 years ago I texted this same friend of mine that if he was interested in going to PAX, which is a large convention in Seattle, I told him keep an eye out on their Twitter page because they tend to sell out tickets fast. Then he told me, no thanks, I'm fine, I'll pass, but there's this other gaming convention that he goes to, and that's when I found out about the Seattle Retro Gaming Expo. He didn't really tell me, hey, if you want to come, go right ahead. I decided to look into it because it had something to do with retro gaming, and I figured, you know what, I'll give this a shot. And not to mention, PAX is pretty packed and tickets sell out fast. And I hardly ever get the opportunity to go to PAX because whenever I am interested in going, it's always sold out. So that's why I don't go to PAX. I will say that my first year at SRGE was a very fond memory because I ended up getting 2 consoles and 1 game on my first year. And I don't mind disclosing budgets because this was in the past, but my budget during my first year at SRGE was at $100, which sounds like a reasonable budget for a convention. And you're probably thinking, gee, 2 retro consoles and 1 game for a $100 budget? Well, this is going to sound crazy, but the 2 consoles I got was a Nintendo 64, which costed $20 when I got it, and the Nintendo GameCube, which costed about $25 when I got it. I'm not joking. Now, the game I got in my first year of SRGE was for my Nintendo 64, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. And in case you ask, this version I'm holding is version 1.1, which is pretty much the last uncut version of the game before version 1.2 came along and made some changes and censored some things. So, yeah. But seriously, first year of SRGE, I was satisfied. Now, I may have gotten only 1 game at my first year at this convention, but hey, it's Ocarina of Time and I played the hell out of it, and I still enjoy it, and I often go back to it once in a while. And after 1 year at SRGE, I was satisfied and I wanted to come back for another year. And I've been doing so ever since. And the rest is pretty much history. Now, since I did not film my past 3 years of experience at this convention, I figured, well, maybe I could show you my retro gaming collection. I mean, after all, I did say recent game pickups plus retro game collection. So I actually got quite a number of games that I have acquired ever since I first went to SRGE. Before I begin showing you my retro gaming collection, I want to point out that some of these games were not purchased at SRGE, but rather elsewhere, like, let's say, Amazon. That was because there were some games that I was pretty certain that I probably would not find at SRGE, so I bought some of these games on behalf of them not being at surge, so do keep that in mind. I'm going to start off with an honorable mention with Final Fantasy VII. I've had this game for about 10 years, and I originally borrowed this from my brother-in-law, and my sister thought they lost their copy of Final Fantasy VII. So they got a new copy of the game, and because of the confusion, it resulted in me keeping this game. So, yeah, I've already beaten it, and I still think it's a great game, even though the graphics haven't aged well, but hey, if you look past the graphics, it's a great game. Now, since I showed off Ocarina of Time, I guess I should show off some of my Nintendo 64 games that I own. I also own the gold cartridge of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and this has exclusive glitches that were fixed in later versions, so that was the reason why I got the gold card, and that's pretty much it. It's kind of a bit of a collector's item, if you ask me. And next game I got is Star Wars Rogue Squadron. I loved this game as a kid, and boy, I had to pick up this game again because I bloody love it. The last Nintendo 64 game that I have left to show and tell is not only my favorite Nintendo 64 game, but one of my favorite games of all time. And we're talking top 10 favorites. And that, of course, is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. The next batch of games that I'm going to be sharing with you is for one of my favorite video game consoles, especially for a retro console, the Super Nintendo. Now, most of my Super Nintendo games that I'm sharing with you were actually given away. So starting off is Wolverine Adamantium Rage. And it's got the LJN stamp. Oh well. Let's see, next is Bob. Yeah, Bob. Alright. Next game, Three Ninjas. Next game, which is another LJN game, WWF Raw. Next game, Total Carnage. I'm not entirely sure if he gave away this game, but hey, looks kind of cool. Next game is NHLPA Hockey 93. It's a sports game, so next game is actually I want to save these. I want to talk about these three next at some point. Fatal Fury Special. I'll give this a shot. I haven't really played it yet, so bear with me. Next up is Williams Arcade's Greatest Hits, which, as I can see, it actually contains Sinistar. Yay. Let's see what we got. Okay. Next game is Tetris Attack, and I heard this one's kind of fun. I haven't really played it yet. Next game is Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and yes, this friend of mine that gave away most of these Super Nintendo games, it has been very vocal about this one, so I am thinking about giving this game a try. Maybe I might review it at some point later on my channel. Next game is Super Star Wars. And I've actually played this game. It's challenging, to say the least. And next game is Secret of Evermore. It's an RPG. Fun. And next game, and this is actually a game that I got with my Super Nintendo last year, and I love this when I played it as a kid. Donkey Kong Country. Oh hell yes, this game is a lot of fun. I have a hard time putting this game down. I've already beaten it, loved it, beaten it in about a week, so beat it pretty fast. And the last game for my Super Nintendo that I'm going to be sharing with you is a title that I think is essential for anyone that plays Super Nintendo games. And seriously, who does not love this game? And I'm talking about Super Mario World. This game's a lot of fun. I've played this many times, and I even beat this game in 17 minutes. The next batch of games that I'm going to be sharing with you are PlayStation 1 titles. Now, I do have a PlayStation 2 hooked up in my room, but I really don't feel like disconnecting it to show you the console in my video, because let's just say reconnecting it is a bit of a hassle considering the setup I have. So maybe in a future video I will show off my PS2 to prove that I really do have the console. But for PlayStation 1 titles, I'm going to start off with Final Fantasy IX. And as much as I did enjoy Final Fantasy VII, this is actually my favorite PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy game. And it's definitely a lot of fun, which is why I like coming back to Final Fantasy IX from time to time. And I was very happy that this game did end up on Steam, which I thought would never happen, but it did. So, very happy to own that game on Steam as well. And I did buy Final Fantasy IX on Steam on day one because I really couldn't pass up on that game. Next title is another well-known RPG for the PlayStation 1, Xenogears. Now, I have not really completed this game, and I'm currently like in the early stages of Xenogears, but I did hear Disc 2 is kind of where the game kind of went a little bit of an odd direction. And I know there's a history behind that, but I suppose I'll talk about Xenogears if I review the game eventually. The next title is another very well-known PlayStation 1 title, and it's Metal Gear Solid. And this game, what can I say? It's amazing. Really goes without saying. Now the next three titles I'm going to be showing off one by one because this is definitely a trilogy of PlayStation 1 games. So, say it with me. Resident Evil. Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 3. Nemesis. Yes, I own the Resident Evil games. I've actually completed the first one, and yeah, it hasn't aged well. And as you can see, I'm holding the director's cut version of the game, and seriously, the remake is better. But the original definitely has its charm with its awful voice acting. And, of course, the Jill sandwich line. But, yeah, I don't know if I'll go back to this one as often, but the remake definitely makes up for some of the faults of the original. But again, like I said, this game's kind of a guilty pleasure with its voice acting. I know it's bad, but I can't help but laugh at it. Now for Resident Evil 2, I bloody love it. I've been playing this game for like 3 weeks, and it's hard for me to put the game down, and this is the game that finally made me a fan of Resident Evil. As for Resident Evil 3, haven't played it, believe it or not. Now, I actually did not get the Resident Evil games at SRGE. I actually bought those on Amazon because I thought that Seattle Retro Gaming Expo last year was not happening. So I actually bought those on behalf of the possibility that SRGE wasn't happening last year, but that wasn't the case. But I did get those games, and I am pleased with my purchase with those three particular titles. Those were the PlayStation 1 titles that I've owned in the past. Moving on to PlayStation 2, starting off with, and feel free to follow after me, Resident Evil Code Veronica X. The reason why the X is in this particular title is because the original version of Resident Evil Code Veronica was actually for the Dreamcast. So the reason the X is in there is to pretty much make it clear that this is a re-release of Resident Evil Code Veronica. So that's pretty much it. Now, if anyone is not aware of Code Veronica, it is not a spin-off, it is actually a main game in the Resident Evil franchise. It was made in between Resident Evil 3 and Resident Evil 4. And I do believe that also means it takes place in between those two games. So, yeah. Now, the next PlayStation 2 title is Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. So you're probably wondering, do I own Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater? My answer is yes. And I have not played it yet. After talking about Nintendo 64 titles, Super Nintendo titles, PlayStation 1 titles, and even PlayStation 2 titles, my last batch of games is for the GameCube, and I only have 2 games to list out. And I'm going to start with The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. This is actually the first GameCube game I got at a convention, and it was the first I got for my GameCube. So, is there really any more I got to say about Wind Waker? Now, I am aware that there is an HD re-release of The Wind Waker, and I do know it looks pretty. I don't have a Wii U, so I am content with playing the original. And besides, there is some minor differences in the Wii U version, so I like to experience the original before I touch the remake someday. So, there's Wind Waker. And the last game of my retro gaming collection before I reveal my recent pickups, and this is going to be the last time I'm going to be calling a game like this. Here goes. Resident Evil 0. And I haven't played it yet, but there is a reason why I picked this game up, because I have been going for a Resident Evil collection for about a year now. And I also have Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 on Steam, including Revelations. The only Resident Evil main game I do not own at this time is Resident Evil Revelations 2, but there is a bit of a reason why I've been collecting Resident Evil games, but that's for another story at a later time. So that was my entire retro gaming collection that I have shared with you. But I did say that I picked up some games recently. So after sharing all of my retro games, it's time for me to reveal what I picked up at this year's SRGE. I'm going to start with PlayStation 1 titles because those were actually the first batch of games that I actually picked up at this year's SRGE. And I'm going to start with Vagrant Story. Now, you may have noticed that there is no front cover or back cover. It is just a game inside a case. Now, get used to seeing stuff like this because I had a bit of a budget going on this year, so I'm not complaining. And for anyone that doesn't know, Vagrant Story is a JRPG created by, well, what do you know, Squaresoft. Although they're called Square Enix now, but at the time, they were called Squaresoft. So, I'm kind of a big fan of RPGs, so, yeah. I have not played this yet, but I've heard it's pretty good. Next game is Final Fantasy Tactics, and I have looked up this game a bit, and it looks kind of interesting. And I know this is not your typical Final Fantasy game, but I am looking forward to playing this and kind of experience a different style of gameplay. So, and I've also heard Final Fantasy Tactics is a good spin-off game in the Final Fantasy franchise. Next game is Final Fantasy Origins. This is actually a collection game of the first 2 Final Fantasy games, and this was actually the first time Americans got Final Fantasy II. And, yeah, kind of nice. I have actually been playing the original Final Fantasy on this, and I'm actually liking it. And the last PS1 title that I will share with you that I recently picked up is Chrono Cross. And this is actually the sequel to a beloved JRPG, Chrono Trigger, which is actually one of my favorite games. And this game is kind of interesting. I've been playing a little bit, and it's kind of taking me a little getting used to. So, kind of curious how it turns out later. Next up is PlayStation 2 titles, and I'm going to start with ATV Off-Road Fury. Now, I actually got this game at a free giveaway at a panel that I attended. And I would like to give a special thanks and a special shout out to John Hancock for this free giveaway. And he also has a YouTube channel where he talks about retro gaming. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, I'm going to leave a link to his channel in the description down below. And I actually have checked out his content recently, and I noticed he is very passionate about retro gaming. And hey, I appreciate retro games as well. So his kind of content is right up my alley. And since I did get this game for free thanks to him, maybe I could return the favor by subscribing to his channel. Besides, I think he has some rather nice content. So yeah, and I also want to give a special shout out to MetalJesusRock, which he also has a YouTube channel with a very similar purpose, but he also has some nice tips on how to collect games and all that good stuff. And I have subscribed to his channel like a couple weeks ago, and I do appreciate his kind of content too. And it's no wonder why I'm passionate about collecting retro games in some way. But hey, his channel's good too. So next game I have is SOCOM US Navy SEALs. And wouldn't you know, I got this game for $1, and I heard it's a pretty good game. And I was kind of planning on playing this game for years, but I never had the opportunity to do so. Now the next game I got is going to blow your mind on how much it costed for me to purchase it. And that is God of War. This is going to blow your mind. I bought this one only for $1. No question about it. $1 well spent. The last game I'm going to share with you is for the Nintendo GameCube. Whatever could it be? Is it The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess? No. Is it Resident Evil 4, since I own 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, and 0? No. Is it Tales of Symphonia? Why, yes it is. And I actually started playing this game from time to time, and this game is actually kind of fun, and I don't know much about it, to be honest, and I'm glad I'm kind of playing this one a bit blind, because I heard it's one of those games that is a lot of fun. And wouldn't you know, not only is it single player, you can actually play this with friends, which it appears it goes up to 4 players. So it's a multiplayer JRPG, like Secret of Mana with the Super Nintendo? Oh, this is going to be kind of fun to play with some friends. I just need to find some friends to play this game with, but hey. Tales of Symphonia, I've been told this was a good purchase, and it actually costed me the most when I went to search this year, and it was actually about $30, but hey, I can't beat that. Considering multiplayer JRPG, hell yeah. And I don't mind spending $30 with this one, because this game is kind of a little hard to find in some places, but I'm glad I picked this one up. So, that was my recent game pickups. But wouldn't you know, I actually have one item left. And I say item because this is not a game. This is Forrest Gump on Blu-ray, and actually a friend of mine got this for me, and I am so grateful because Forrest Gump is currently my favorite film of all time. And yeah, it's your generic Blu-ray case with the film inside. But what I got is Forrest Gump on Laserdisc. Holy shit, these discs are huge! Laserdisc is an obsolete format. The only drawback is that you had to flip the disc. So yeah, if you don't like your film interrupted because you have to flip the disc over, then that's going to be a bit of an annoyance with this format. Not to mention, I only bought this for like $2, so this is technically for memorabilia's sake, but if I ever own a Laserdisc player, then by all means I am kind of curious what Laserdisc was like. So I've yet to experience Forrest Gump on Laserdisc. And yes, Laserdisc edition of films were packaged similarly to vinyl records. Well, that was my retro game collection, including the games that I recently picked up at SRGE 2016, including Forrest Gump on Laserdisc. If you like this video, feel free to hit the like button, and if you want to follow my channel, please feel free to hit the subscribe button. And as always, you're welcome to leave me a comment if you feel so inclined. And thanks for watching. And I think I'm due to review another video game. Well, my next video game review is going to be on a retro game. I don't see why not, because I just recently went to a retro video game convention, so I'm in the mood to review another retro game, because I haven't really reviewed a modern video game yet, have I? Well, there is a game that I have been requested to review, so I might as well meet that request.